It's 1789, and a French baker wakes up to find that his morning wages can't even buy the flour he needs to bake bread. By noon, mobs are in the streets, not because they're hungry, but because the money in their pockets has become worthless paper. Jump ahead to 1923 Germany, where people push wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. Or Argentina in 2001, where desperate citizens literally smash bank windows, trying to withdraw their own savings. What if I told you that every one of these catastrophes, separated by continents and centuries, followed the exact same pattern? That there's a hidden sequence of events, like financial dominoes falling in slow motion, that's repeated itself throughout history with chilling predictability. Here's the part that should keep you up at night. We are seeing the early stages of that same pattern right now. The same warning signs that came before history, as biggest currency collapses and tax revolts are flashing red all over the global economy. But most people don't recognize what they're seeing. They think inflation, government debt, and political unrest are separate problems, when in reality they're all connected pieces of the same puzzle. This cycle has been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years, and by the end of this video you'll be able to see it too. This isn't just ancient history or academic theory. This is the story of how empires fall, how savings evaporate overnight, and how ordinary people lose everything they've worked for. Understanding this pattern matters because it is shaping your economic future right now, whether you realize it or not. When currencies collapse and tax revolts erupt, it's not some distant economic event. It decides whether your savings hold value, whether your salary still pays your bills, and whether your government survives the decade. History shows that these crises don't just shift economies, they rewrite societies. They wipe out the middle class, transfer massive wealth to those who saw it coming, and completely reshape how citizens relate to their governments. Think about this. In the past century alone, over 30 national currencies have completely collapsed. Not struggled, collapsed. In each case, millions watched their life savings turn to dust. During Germany's hyperinflation, workers were paid twice a day because money lost value by the hour. In Zimbabwe, an egg cost $50 billion. In Venezuela, people weighed their cash by the kilogram. None of these were random accidents. They followed the same predictable chain of events, one that starts with political decisions, grows through economic pressures, and ends in public outrage. The warning signs are visible years before the collapse actually happens. The question isn't whether the cycle will repeat, it always does, but whether people recognize it in time. Let's start where it always begins, with the government's fiscal trap. Every major currency crisis in history starts when a government promises more than it can deliver. It is the same as a family maxing out their credit cards and taking out too many loans after losing income. They have three choices: cut spending, find new income, or keep borrowing until everything collapses. Governments face the same dilemma, just with far higher stakes. Rome did it by expanding its borders too far. France bankrupted itself funding wars and an extravagant nobility. The US and modern nations do it through endless programs and military spending. At first it all seems fine. Growth hides the cracks. But costs grow faster than revenue, and soon the math stops working. Cutting spending is politically suicidal because every cut creates visible losers. So governments turn to option 2, raising taxes. Rome taxed its provinces into rebellion. France taxed peasants into revolution. Britain's taxes on its colonies triggered the American Revolution. It happens like clockwork, but there's a limit. When taxes rise too high, people stop producing, they hide income, or they revolt. That's when governments move to their third and most dangerous option, printing money. When you can't tax or borrow enough, you print. Rome did it by reducing silver in coins until their value evaporated. France did it with paper assignats backed by future wealth that never existed. Germany did it in the 1920s to pay war debts, leading to catastrophic hyperinflation. Zimbabwe and Venezuela repeated the same mistake within living memory. At first, it seems to work. The economy keeps moving, politicians breathe a sigh of relief, and people feel richer. But as more money chases the same goods, prices explode, trust collapses, and chaos begins. Whether you call it money printing or quantitative easing, the outcome never changes. The system always breaks, and that leads us to the final stage, the legitimacy death spiral. Currencies and tax systems depend entirely on trust. Money only works if people believe it has value. Taxes only work if citizens believe the system is fair and legitimate. Once that belief breaks, the collapse accelerates fast. In ancient Rome, wealthy citizens hid assets to avoid taxes. In pre-revolutionary France, tax collectors were literally hunted down and killed. In Argentina in 2001, people ran to withdraw cash when they saw others doing it, collapsing the entire banking system in days. When belief dies, no government force can stop the unraveling. That's the terrifying speed of the legitimacy spiral. Fiscal traps and money printing can take decades to develop, but once people lose trust, the system can implode in weeks. And right now, around the world, trust is fading. Tax evasion is rising, central banks are losing credibility, and millions are turning to cryptocurrencies, not because they love tech, but because they don't trust the system anymore. When all three forces, fiscal trap, money printing, and loss of trust, start feeding each other, history shows the outcome is inevitable. And the consequences are devastating. The first is the massive wealth transfer. Crises don't destroy wealth, they move it. Middle-class savers and workers holding cash are wiped out, while those holding real assets, land, gold, businesses, see their relative wealth soar. Insiders with information profit the most. During Weimar Germany's inflation, industrialists borrowed heavily in worthless marks and paid back debts with monopoly money, ending up owning most of the country's assets. Ordinary savers lost everything. It wasn't luck, it was arithmetic. Inflation destroys debt and rewards those who owe. The same thing happened in Argentina, Zimbabwe, and Venezuela. The rich moved assets offshore or into hard currency, while the average citizen was trapped holding paper. Every crisis widens inequality. The second consequence is political radicalization. Currency collapse doesn't produce calm debate. It produces extremism. Germany's hyperinflation paved the way for Hitler. France's fiscal crisis created the revolution and the terror. Argentina cycled through 5 presidents in 2 weeks. When governments fail to protect money's value, people stop believing in moderation. They swing to extremes on both sides. And governments often respond in kind, imposing capital controls, cracking down on dissent, tightening surveillance. The result is a feedback loop of fear and control. The third consequence is contagion. These crises don't stay local. The Asian financial crisis spread across half a continent in months. The 2008 crash spread globally in weeks. And now, with instant communication and digital markets, contagion can go worldwide in hours. When one domino falls, the rest follow faster than ever before. Step back and the pattern is undeniable. For over 2,000 years, empires, kingdoms, and modern states have tried to defy economic gravity, spending more than they collect, printing to fill the gap and watching it all unravel when trust disappears. The names and technologies change, but the math doesn't. That French baker in 1789 didn't just wake up to worthless money. He woke up inside a cycle that's destroyed civilizations again and again. Rome, France, Weimar, Zimbabwe, Venezuela. Every one of them thought they were different. Everyone believed they could manage it better. None of them did. The lesson isn't that collapse is inevitable. It's that awareness is protection. The people who recognize the pattern early, who hold real assets, diversify and stay alert, survive it. The ones who don't lose everything. And here we are again. Record debts, endless money creation, growing tax frustration, falling trust. The pattern is here. The question is whether enough of us can see it this time. If this deep dive helped you see the cycle a little more clearly, hit the like button and subscribe for more explorations into the forces shaping our economy. And tell me this, of all the crises we talked about, which one surprised you the most? And do you see any of these warning signs happening where you live right now? I'd love to hear your thoughts.